And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Starting off with tonight's weather. See this system here tracking eastward now and will pass well to the south of the panhandle and take all the moisture with it. So showers will end here across all the southeast coast. Still a chance of some lingering light precipitation down toward Dixon Entrance. But this weakening front will spread rain and snow along the eastern North Gulf Coast around Yakutat. And then some of that moisture already into the eastern interior will continue. Chance of light snow there from about Eagle. Southward there to Northway and Tok, maybe the Wrangell Mountains. Otherwise, mostly clear and chilly temperatures here over mainland Alaska. And still some flurries there along the Arctic coast. Next system out here in the Bering Sea pushing eastward with rain pushing in toward the Pribilof Islands. Tomorrow they'll push increasing precipitation and a little bit of an increase in the winds here to the southwest coast up to St. Lawrence Island. Wet day for the Pribilofs down to the eastern Aleutians and drying out again behind it. And still some chances of light snow for the Arctic coast. Otherwise high pressure, quiet day here over much of interior Alaska from actually the North Slope right on down into the Gulf of Alaska and then over the Panhandle as again this system tracks slowly eastward in toward British Columbia. And then for Monday, nice day again for the southeast coast. Different story here for the inland areas of the state as front drives eastward, bringing a widespread area of snow into the interior. Rain along the North Gulf Coast to Kodiak Island, snow extending out into the northern Bering Sea, and higher pressure, another break behind that system ahead of the next system farther out there to the west. Coastal water forecast for the south coast of the Panhandle tomorrow. Small craft advisories, north to northeast winds 25 to 30 knots. Otherwise 15 knot winds from the northeast to northwest for the northern coast there. Inside waters 20 to 25 knot winds from the north and northeast with seas running 4 to 5 feet. And for the day on Monday, again, the inside waters, mostly north to northwest at 15 to 20 knots with seas running 3 to 4 feet. Northwest winds 15 to 20 knots on the south coast, central coast variable at 10, east 15 to 20 for the north coast. Prince William Sound tomorrow, northerlies at 15 knots with 3-foot seas, north to northwest winds for the North Gulf Coast 15 to 25 knots. Cook Inlet, not bad, north to northeasterlies at 10. Northwest 30-knot winds for Kamishak Bay, 25 knots for the Barren Islands. And for Monday, Barren Islands swinging around to the southeast at 20 knots, 15 knots out of the east for Kamishak Bay. Northeast breeze 10 to 15 knots for Cook Inlet, Prince William Sound, east winds at 20 knots. And east to southeast winds at 25 knots for the eastern North Gulf Coast, northeast to 20 there on the west side. Kodiak Island, west-northwesterlies, 20 to 25 knots for the day Sunday. Alaska Peninsula, south to southwest winds, 20 to 30 knots, and southeast of 15 there in Bristol Bay. Bristol Bay on Monday, west 15 knots, seas 4 feet. West-northwest winds, 20 to 25 knots here for the peninsula. Kodiak Island, south to southwest at 20 knots. Eastern Aleutians tomorrow, south to southwest winds, 25 to 30 knots. West-southwest 30-knot winds for Adak and Atka, and 25 to 30-knot westerlies there for the western Aleutians. And then for the day on Monday, western Aleutians here, west-southwest 25 to 35 knots, westerlies at 25 knots for Adak, Atka, Nikolsky to Unalaska and Dutch Harbor. And for the southwest coast tomorrow, we've got 30-knot southeast winds with 7-foot seas for the Kuskokwim Delta coast, Yukon Delta coast, east at 25 knots, south at 30 knots for the Pribilofs, southeast 25 for St. Matthew Island, and St. Lawrence Island, Norton Sound east, southeast at 20. And then for the day on Monday, small craft advisories, Norton Sound, St. Lawrence Island, Yukon Delta coast, and the Kuskokwim Delta coast, all looking southwest at 25. Seas running 5 to 7 feet. Gale warnings though, St. Matthew Island, northwest at 35 knots. Gales also in the forecast for the Pribilofs for west winds at 35 knots, seas up to 14 feet. And the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, tomorrow, west winds 15 to 20 knots, light easterlies on the central coast, and 15-knot winds for the western Arctic coast from the east, and 15 to 20 knots from the east for the Chukchi Sea. Then those winds increase across the entire area here for Monday with small craft advisories for the Chukchi Sea. Winds east at 25 to 30 knots, and for the Arctic coast, winds east at mostly around 30 knots with seas running 5 to 7 feet.